After helping an alien grandma, she's determined to marry him off to her gorgeous granddaughter. Stan Reynolds walked down the bustling streets of New Verdun, the capital city of Chloris Prime, his massive black steel stealth suit drawing curious glances from the local green-skinned population. The suit's advanced cooling system barely kept up with the planet's tropical climate, and he could feel sweat trickling down his neck. His tousled brown hair and rugged beard probably made him look more like a mercenary than the special operations officer he actually was. The city was a strange blend of ultra-modern architecture and nature, with towering crystalline spires wrapped in vibrant alien vegetation. The streets teemed with Chlorosians going about their daily business, their green skin glistening under the golden light of their binary stars. "Damn it all," a musical voice cursed in perfectly accented standard English. Stan turned to see an elderly Chlorosian woman struggling with several paper bags, their contents threatening to spill onto the street. Despite her advanced age, she carried herself with grace and possessed a striking appearance. Her smooth white hair was tied in an elegant bun, and her large green eyes sparkled with vitality. She wore an unusual gray robe adorned with intricate red, beige, and black patterns that accentuated her figure, complete with a deeply open neckline that would have been scandalous on Earth. Without hesitation, Stan stepped forward. "Allow me to help you, ma'am." The woman's eyes widened slightly as she took in his human appearance, but her face quickly broke into a warm smile. "Oh, how kind of you, young man. These bags are quite troublesome." As Stan gathered the bags in his arms, she introduced herself. "I'm Lady Emeralda Thorks, and you are?" "Stan Reynolds, ma'am. Just passing through on some business." They began walking together, and Lady Emeralda proved to be quite the conversationalist. "A human all the way out here on Chloros Prime? How fascinating. Are you married, dear?" Stan chuckled. "No, ma'am. My line of work doesn't leave much time for romance." "Nonsense, a handsome, strong man like yourself? Why, my granddaughter is about your age, and she's absolutely lovely." As they walked, Lady Emeralda skillfully extracted information about Stan's life, career, what little he could share, and personal preferences. Her questions were pointed but delivered with such charm that Stan found himself answering more openly than he'd intended. They finally reached a beautiful mansion surrounded by floating gardens. As they approached the entrance, the door opened to reveal a young Chlorosian woman who took Stan's breath away. She had the same green skin as her grandmother, but that's where the similarities ended. Long, slightly wavy black hair was tied in a high ponytail, and large brown eyes were accentuated by sultry, dark makeup. She wore a tight, short brown dress with a plunging neckline that highlighted her athletic figure. "Grandmother, I was getting worried." The young woman's voice was melodious, with a hint of shyness. Lady Emeralda's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Ah, Nibra, dear, this kind human gentleman helped me with my shopping. Stan Reynolds, meet my granddaughter, Nibra Thorks." Nibra's cheeks darkened to a deeper green as she met Stan's gaze. "Thank you for helping my grandmother, Mr. Reynolds." "Please call me Stan." He found himself smiling, captivated by her presence. Lady Emeralda clapped her hands together. "Oh, you simply must join us for dinner tomorrow night, Stan, as a thank you for your assistance." Before Stan could politely decline, Nibra spoke up. "Yes, please do come. I'd love to hear about Earth." Looking into those enchanting brown eyes, Stan heard himself accepting the invitation. As he walked away from the Thorks mansion, Stan couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just been expertly maneuvered by a crafty grandmother with matchmaking on her mind. And surprisingly, he found himself looking forward to tomorrow's dinner. The following evening, Stan found himself back at the Thorksy mansion, this time dressed in formal civilian attire. Lady Emeralda greeted him with the same enthusiasm as before, though her eyes held a knowing glint that made him wonder what she had planned. "My dear boy, I'm so pleased you could join us." She ushered him inside. "Nibra is waiting in the library. We have quite the collection of ancient texts that need organizing, and I thought you might find them fascinating." The mansion's library was a vast chamber with towering shelves that reached toward a dome ceiling painted with constellations. Nibra stood by an antique desk, wearing a flowing emerald dress that complemented her green skin perfectly. Her black hair cascaded freely down her back today, and Stan found himself momentarily speechless. "Hello, Stan," she said softly, a slight darkening of her cheeks betraying her nervousness. Before either could say more, Lady Emeralda's personal communicator chimed. "Oh dear, it's the Emergency Council of Noble Ladies. There's a crisis at the tea garden. I simply must attend." She hurried toward the door, then paused. "Don't worry about me, dears. This could take hours. Do carry on with the cataloging." The door closed behind her with a decisive click. Stan and Nibara shared a knowing look, then burst into laughter. "Your grandmother isn't exactly subtle, is she?" Stan moved closer to the desk where Nibara stood. "Subtle? Grandmother?" Nibara's musical laughter filled the room. "She's been trying to marry me off since I came of age, though I must admit—" She glanced at him through long lashes. Her taste has improved significantly. The air between them crackled with unspoken attraction. Stan picked up one of the ancient books, running his fingers along its spine. "Tell me about these texts." Nibara moved beside him, close enough that he could smell her exotic perfume, something like jasmine mixed with alien spices. "These are our people's oldest stories, tales of love, adventure, and destiny." Her fingers brushed his as she took the book, sending electricity through his body. "This one," she opened the tome carefully, "tells of a warrior from the stars who fell in love with a Chlorasian princess. Their union was forbidden, but their passion couldn't be denied." "How did it end?" Stan asked, his voice husky. "They created their own destiny," Nibara replied, looking up at him. "Sometimes the heart knows what's right, even when tradition says otherwise." Hours passed as they explored the library together, sharing stories from their respective cultures. They moved closer with each passing minute, their hands finding excuses to touch, their bodies gravitating toward each other like binary stars locked in an eternal dance. As the twin suns began to set, casting the library in golden light, Stan found himself standing behind Nibara as she reached for a book on a high shelf. His hand covered hers, helping her retrieve the volume, but neither moved away afterward. "Stan," she whispered, turning to face him. Their bodies were inches apart now. On Chloros, when a woman feels attraction to a man, her skin produces a subtle bioluminescence. She held up her arm, which had begun to emit a faint, beautiful glow. His breath caught. "And what does that mean?" "It means I can't hide how I feel about you." She stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. "And I don't want to." Their first kiss was electric, quite literally. Chlorosian biology created small static charges during moments of passion. Stan pulled her closer, deepening the kiss as her body began to glow more intensely. What followed was a celebration of their differences and similarities, a dance as old as time itself, performed in new and wonderful ways. Their passion ignited like a supernova, transforming the library into their own private universe. Later, as they lay together on a plush reading couch, Nibara traced patterns on Stan's chest. "You know," she mused, "in Chlorosian culture, intimate relations are considered a natural progression of attraction. It's how we determine biological compatibility." "And are we compatible?" Stan asked, running his fingers through her silky hair. She smiled, her skin still faintly glowing. "Very, though we might need more research to be certain." "I do love thorough research," he grinned, pulling her close for another kiss. A discreet cough from the doorway made them both jump. Lady Emeralda stood there, looking immensely pleased with herself. "I trust the library organization was productive?" Lady Emeralda wasted no time setting the traditional Chlorosian courtship ceremony in motion. The morning after the library encounter, she summoned both Stan and Nibara to the mansion's grand solarium, where morning light filtered through crystalline walls, casting rainbow patterns across the room. "Now then," Lady Emeralda began, practically bouncing with excitement, "we must discuss the rite of intentional union. It's a three-phase courtship ceremony that validates biological and emotional compatibility between potential mates." Stan sat beside Nibara on an elegantly curved sofa, their thighs touching. "I'm willing to learn and participate in any tradition required," he said, earning an approving nod from Lady Emeralda. "Excellent. The first phase is the exchange of essences," Lady Emeralda explained, consulting an ancient-looking datapad. "Each participant provides a sample of their DNA through a simple blood test. Our scientists analyze the genetic compatibility for producing viable offspring." Nibara's skin flickered with a subtle glow as she placed her hand over Stan's. "It's purely a formality in our case, grandmother. We've already confirmed our compatibility." Lady Emeralda's eyes sparkled with mischief. Oh, I'm well aware, dear, but traditions must be observed. The second phase is the trial of shared purpose, where the couple must complete a project together, demonstrating their ability to work as one. What kind of project? Stan asked, genuinely intrigued. Traditionally, couples create a small garden together, nurturing it for one lunar cycle. The plant's growth patterns reveal the strength of the couple's bond. Lady Emeralda paused dramatically. However, given your unique situation as a human Chlorosian pair, the Council of Elders has agreed to modify the tradition. Nibbara leaned forward. Modified how? Instead of a garden, you'll be tasked with designing and building a hybrid living space that combines both human and Chlorosian elements. It must be suitable for both species to thrive in. Stan grinned. That actually sounds fascinating. My engineering background could be useful. The final phase, Lady Emeralda continued, is the ceremony of physical harmony, where the couple demonstrates their commitment through a traditional dance before the community. It's quite intimate. Grandmother, Nibbara's skin darkened with embarrassment. Oh, hush, dear. The dance is beautiful. A celebration of life and union. The way the bodies move together, the synchronization of breath and movement. Lady Emeralda sighed dreamily. Your grandfather and I scandalized half the city with our performance. Stan raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried? Only if you can't dance, Lady Emeralda winked. Now, we'll begin the first phase tomorrow. Today, you two should spend time learning more about each other's customs. Nibbara, why don't you show Stan the ancestral gardens? The ancestral gardens proved to be a sprawling paradise of alien flora, with pathways winding between towering crystalline trees and flowering vines that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. As they walked, Nibbara explained more about Chlorosian culture. Our society values passion and physical connection as much as intellectual compatibility, she said, leading Stan to a secluded alcove. We believe that true understanding comes through all forms of intimacy. Stan pulled her close, his hands settling on her waist. I'm beginning to appreciate your culture more and more. Their lips met in a passionate kiss, Nibbara's skin illuminating with that enchanting bioluminescence. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Nibbara's eyes were dark with desire. The ceremony of physical harmony, she whispered against his lips, is more than just a dance. It's a public declaration of physical compatibility. Couples practice for weeks to perfect their movements. Private practice sessions? Stan asked, his voice husky. Very private, she confirmed, pulling him deeper into the alcove. Later that evening, during dinner, Lady Emeralda revealed more details about the upcoming ceremonies. The Council of Elders had expressed great interest in this unprecedented union between a human and a Chlorosian. They're particularly fascinated by human biology, Lady Emeralda commented, watching Stan over her wine glass. Our scientists have never had the opportunity to study human Chlorosian genetic compatibility up close. Grandmother, Nibbara warned, but Lady Emeralda waved her concern away. Oh, don't worry, dear, they'll be discreet. Besides, think of the scientific advancement, and my future great-grandchildren will be the first of their kind. Stan choked on his wine. Isn't it a bit early to discuss children? Nonsense, the genetic compatibility tests will tell us everything we need to know about your reproductive potential. Though your enthusiasm suggests there won't be any problems in that department. Grandmother? Nibbara exclaimed, mortified. Lady Emeralda just laughed. My dear, I may be old, but I'm not blind. The way you two look at each other, it reminds me of your grandfather and me. Such passion, such fire. Why, I remember one time in the library. Please don't finish that story, Nibbara begged. The evening continued with more embarrassing stories from Lady Emeralda, interspersed with detailed explanations of Chlorosian mating customs that made both Stan and Nibbara blush. Yet beneath the embarrassment, there was a growing excitement about their future together. The genetic testing facility gleamed with advanced technology, its pristine white walls contrasting sharply with the natural greens and browns that dominated most Chlorosian architecture. Stan sat in a comfortable examination chair while Dr. Viridian, a distinguished Chlorosian scientist with emerald-tinted spectacles, reviewed the preliminary results on his holoscreen. Fascinating, the doctor muttered, adjusting his glasses. Simply fascinating. Lady Emeralda, who had insisted on being present, practically bounced in her seat. Well, don't keep us in suspense. Dr. Viridian turned to face them, his expression a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Mr. Reynolds, your genetic structure shows remarkable adaptability. The compatibility with Chlorosian DNA is unprecedented. In fact, he paused for effect. Your genes appear to enhance certain Chlorosian traits when combined. Nibara, who had been holding Stan's hand throughout the examination, squeezed it tighter. Enhance how? Any offspring would likely possess increased strength, accelerated healing, and possibly even more intense bioluminescent capabilities. The doctor's eyes sparkled with scientific enthusiasm. It's as if human DNA fills in gaps we didn't even know existed in our own genetic code. Humanity, fuck yeah, Stan muttered under his breath, making Nibara giggle. Lady Emeralda clapped her hands in delight. This is wonderful news, we must celebrate. But first, she checked her timepiece. You two have your first dance practice session. The dance studio was located in a traditional Chlorosian temple, its walls lined with mirrors that seemed to capture and amplify the natural light. Their instructor, Madame Jade, was a stern-looking Chlorosian woman who carried herself with the grace of a natural predator. The ceremony of physical harmony, she began, circling Stan and Nibara, is not merely a dance. It is a representation of the eternal dance between life forces. Every movement must flow like water, yet strike like lightning. Stan, who had never been particularly graceful, felt his confidence wavering. I should warn you, I have 2 left feet. Madame Jade's expression remained unchanged. Great, then we shall make them right feet. Now, positions. What followed was both the most challenging and intimate dance lesson Stan had ever experienced. The traditional movements required perfect synchronization between partners, with complex lifts and turns that left no room for error. More than once, Stan found himself tangled up with Nibara in ways that would have been scandalous in human society, but merely earned impatient sighs from Madame Jade. No, no, no! Madame Jade called out as Stan stumbled again. You must feel the movement in your core. When you lift her, it should be as natural as breathing. Nibara, whose skin had been glowing steadily brighter throughout the lesson, whispered in his ear, Perhaps we need some private practice to work on our coordination. The suggestion in her voice made Stan miss the next step entirely, sending them both tumbling to the floor in a laughing heap. Later that evening, in the privacy of the mansion's east wing, they did indeed practice their coordination, though not necessarily the dance steps. Their passionate encounters had taken on new meaning since learning about their genetic compatibility. Each touch charged with the possibility of creation. I never thought I'd be so excited about genetics, Stan admitted, tracing patterns on Nibara's luminescent skin as they lay together on a plush divan. Chlorosians believe that physical compatibility is a gift from the universe, Nibara explained, her fingers playing with his beard. When 2 beings are as compatible as we are, it's considered a sign that they're meant to create something new together. Something new like genetically enhanced, glowing babies, he teased. She playfully swatted his chest. Don't let grandmother hear you joke about that. She's probably already planning the nursery. As if summoned by her name, Lady Emeralda's voice called from the hallway. Nibara, Stan, the Council of Elders has requested an immediate meeting. They hurriedly made themselves presentable and followed Lady Emeralda to the council chambers, where 12 elderly Chlorosians sat in a semicircle, their expressions varying from curiosity to concern. The head elder, a distinguished male with silvery green skin, spoke first. We have reviewed Dr. Viridian's findings. This level of genetic compatibility is unprecedented. It raises questions. Stan felt Nibara tense beside him. What kind of questions? There are those who believe such compatibility cannot be natural, another elder interjected. They suggest some form of genetic manipulation in humanity's past. Or perhaps, Lady Emeralda spoke up, it simply proves what I've suspected since the moment I met Stan, that humans and Chlorosians share a deeper connection than we ever imagined. The discussion continued late into the night, with the elders ultimately deciding that Stan and Nibara's union could proceed, but under careful observation. Their genetic compatibility had transformed a simple courtship into something of scientific and cultural significance. The plot of land Lady Emeralda had gifted them for their hybrid living space project sat at the intersection of traditional and modern districts in New Verdun. Stan stood at the edge of the property, reviewing his holographic blueprints, while Nibra sketched organic designs in her digital tablet. The foundation needs to be solid durasteel, Stan explained, projecting his design into the air. It provides the best stability for the advanced systems I want to install. Nibra frowned, her skin dimming slightly in disagreement. But traditional Chlorosian homes grow from living crystal foundations. They respond to the inhabitants' moods, creating a harmonious living environment. Living crystal isn't compatible with the environmental controls I designed, Stan countered. And we need those controls if we want both species to be comfortable year-round. Their first major disagreement had been brewing for days ever since they'd started planning their shared home. Stan's practical human approach clashed with Nibara's desire for organic Chlorosian architecture. The tension had affected their dance practices, making their movements stiff and uncoordinated, much to Madame Jade's increasing frustration. Perhaps, Lady Emeralda interjected, appearing seemingly from nowhere as she often did, you're both approaching this wrong. Why must it be either or? Your union itself proves that different species can create something greater together. Stan and Nibra exchanged thoughtful glances. That evening, they retreated to the mansion's observation dome to discuss their options. The twin moons of Chloros Prime cast a romantic glow through the crystalline ceiling, their light making Nibra's skin shimmer enchantingly. Your grandmother's right, Stan admitted, pulling Nibra close. We're trying to force each other's styles instead of creating something new together. Nibra's fingers traced the muscles of his chest through his shirt. Like how our genetics create something better than either species alone? Exactly. He captured her wandering hand, bringing it to his lips. What if we use living crystal for the interior walls, but contained within a durasteel framework? The crystal could still respond to emotions, but the structure would support all the technical systems we need. And the environmental controls could work with the crystal's natural properties instead of fighting against them, Nibara added excitedly. Her skin began to pulse with that mesmerizing bioluminescence that drove Stan wild. Their breakthrough in the design led to a passionate celebration of their compatibility, both architectural and physical. Lady Emeralda found them the next morning asleep in the observation dome, surrounded by scattered blueprints and design tablets. I do hope you've worked out your differences, she said cheerfully, making them both jump, because the Council of Elders is coming to review your progress this afternoon. The next few weeks saw Stan and Nibara working in perfect harmony, their complementary skills creating something truly unique. The foundation combined durasteel and living crystal in a revolutionary way, with the crystal growing through specially designed channels in the metal framework. Their evenings were split between dance practice, which improved dramatically once they resolved their creative differences, and passionate encounters that left both of them glowing, quite literally in Nibara's case. During one particularly intense dance session, Madame Jade actually smiled. Now you move as one. The passion between you flows naturally into the dance. It's flowing somewhere, Stan muttered, making Nibara stumble as she suppressed a laugh. Their home grew steadily, each element reflecting both their cultures. The living room featured walls of responsive crystal that could shift from transparent to opaque based on desired privacy levels. The bedroom combined Chlorosian organic architecture with human comfort preferences, creating a space that catered to both their needs. One evening, as they reviewed the nearly completed project, Nibara surprised Stan with an unexpected question. Have you thought about where the nursery should be? Stan almost dropped his tablet. Nursery? Nibara's skin flickered with nervous energy. Well, given our genetic compatibility and how frequently we've been practicing, I thought we should be prepared. Stan pulled her into his arms. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Not yet, she smiled, her skin glowing brighter. But according to Dr. Viridian's latest tests, it's very likely to happen soon, especially given how enthusiastic we've been about testing our compatibility. Their laughter turned to passionate kisses, and soon they were christening their newly completed bedroom, their bodies moving together with the same harmony they'd finally achieved in their ceremonial dance. The next morning, the Council of Elders toured their nearly finished home. The head elders seemed particularly impressed by their innovative solutions. You've created more than just a dwelling, he observed. You've created a blueprint for how our species can coexist and thrive together. Lady Emeralda beamed with pride. Just wait until you see their great-grandchildren running through these halls. Grandmother, Nibara protested, though her skin betrayed her thoughts on the matter with a telling glow. The morning of their final dance rehearsal began with an unexpected revelation. Nibara burst into Stan's private quarters at the mansion, her skin pulsing with an intensity he'd never seen before. The bioluminescence created patterns that seemed to dance across her green skin like Aurora Borealis. Stan! She practically flew into his arms. The morning tests. Dr. Viridian just confirmed. We're going to have a baby. Stan felt the world spin for a moment before pure joy took over. He lifted Nibara off her feet, spinning her around as their laughter echoed through the room. Are you sure? When? How? Well, Nibara smirked, her skin glowing even brighter. I believe you know exactly how it happened. Remember that night in the observation dome when we were reviewing the bedroom designs? Before Stan could respond, a delighted squeal came from the doorway. Lady Emeralda stood there, practically vibrating with excitement. I knew it! I knew it! Oh, my precious great-grandchild! She rushed forward to embrace them both. The first human Clarosian child in history. We must accelerate the wedding preparations immediately. The news spread through the household like wildfire. By midday, Dr. Viridian had arrived to conduct more detailed scans, his scientific enthusiasm barely contained. The fetus shows remarkable development already, he explained, reviewing the holographic images. The combination of human and Clarosian DNA has created something truly extraordinary. Look here. He pointed to a particular area of the scan. The child appears to have both species' strongest traits. Enhanced muscle density from the human side, advanced neural development from the Clarosian side, and, he paused dramatically, definitive signs of bioluminescent capability. Lady Emeralda, who had refused to leave the examination room, despite Nibara's protests, was already making notes on her datapad. We'll need to modify the nursery design. Oh, and the ceremonial dress will need adjustments. And the dance routine. Madam Jade must be informed immediately. Nibara groaned. Grandmother, I'm barely a few weeks along. The ceremony is in 2 days. The dress will be fine. Nonsense, everything must be perfect for my great-grandchild's first public appearance. Stan watched this exchange with amusement, his hand never leaving Nibara's. The reality of impending fatherhood filled him with a mix of terror and exhilaration. He'd come to this planet on a routine diplomatic mission, and now he was about to become the first human to father a half-Clarosian child. That afternoon's dance practice took on new meaning. Madam Jade, upon hearing the news, modified certain lifts and spins to accommodate Nibara's condition, though she insisted the changes made the routine even more meaningful. The ceremony of physical harmony is about creation, she explained, watching them move through the steps. Now you truly embody its deepest meaning. Your dance will tell the story of not just your union, but the miracle growing within. As they practiced, Stan noticed that Nibara's pregnancy seemed to enhance her natural grace. Her movements flowed like liquid light, her skin's glow pulsing in time with the traditional music. When he held her close during the more intimate passages of the dance, he could swear he felt a subtle warmth emanating from her abdomen. Later that evening, as they lay together in their nearly completed home, Nibara traced patterns on Stan's chest. Are you happy? She asked softly. About the baby? Stan caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. Happy doesn't begin to cover it. Terrified, amazed, overwhelmed, ecstatic, but mostly grateful. Grateful? Then I stopped to help an elderly lady with her shopping bags. He grinned. Your grandmother knew exactly what she was doing, didn't she? Nibara laughed. She claims she sensed our compatibility the moment she saw you. Something about the way you carried those bags with such care? She's quite the matchmaker, Stan mused, though I doubt even she expected us to create a whole new species together. The next morning brought a flurry of activity as final preparations for the ceremony began. Lady Emeralda had somehow managed to modify Nibara's ceremonial dress overnight, incorporating subtle elements that highlighted her early pregnancy while maintaining traditional aesthetics. The Council of Elders called an emergency session to discuss the implications of the pregnancy. Unlike their previous concerns about genetic compatibility, this meeting was filled with excitement and optimism. This child represents the future, the head elder declared. A living bridge between our peoples. We must ensure everything is perfect for the ceremony. Lady Emeralda took this as permission to go into full planning overdrive. She orchestrated an army of servants to transform the traditional ceremonial grounds into something that would honor both human and Clorosian customs. The child will need both cultures, she insisted as she directed workers to arrange crystalline archways interwoven with earth flowers. We must show that we embrace this union completely. The morning of the ceremony brought unexpected but welcome chaos to the Orcs mansion. A human diplomatic vessel had arrived overnight, carrying Stan's family and several high-ranking Earth officials who'd learned of the groundbreaking union. Mom? Dad? Stan stood shocked in the mansion's entrance hall as his parents, Amanda, Richard Reynolds, stepped through the door, followed by Earth's ambassador to the Clorosian Alliance. Did you really think we'd miss our son's wedding and the announcement of the first human Clorosian grandchild? Amanda rushed forward to embrace him, then turned to Nybara with tears in her eyes. Oh, you're even more beautiful than the holovids showed. Richard Reynolds, a distinguished military veteran, cleared his throat gruffly. Son, when you left Earth for a diplomatic mission, we expected reports about trade agreements, not announcements about interspecies marriages and revolutionary genetic discoveries. Well, Stan grinned, I did establish some very diplomatic relations. Lady Emeralda swept into the hall, immediately taking charge of the situation. Wonderful, simply wonderful. Now we can incorporate Earth traditions as well. She linked arms with Amanda. Come, dear, we must discuss human wedding customs immediately, and you must tell me all about Stan's childhood. The news networks from both worlds had gathered outside the ceremonial grounds, their cameras hovering discreetly as guests arrived. The story had captured the public's imagination. A chance encounter between a human diplomat and an elderly Clorosian woman, leading to a groundbreaking union and the first human Clorosian child. In the preparation chamber, Nybara stood before a mirror, her ceremonial dress shimmering with both traditional Clorosian bioluminescent crystals and elegant earth silk. Her pregnancy had enhanced her natural glow, making her skin pulse with gentle waves of light that seemed to dance in rhythm with her heartbeat. You look absolutely radiant, Amanda said, helping adjust the dress's flowing layers. Though I suppose radiant has a whole new meaning when your daughter-in-law actually glows. Nybara laughed, then suddenly grabbed Amanda's hand, placing it on her abdomen. Feel that? The baby's bioluminescence just started this morning. Dr. Viridian says it's responding to all the excitement. In another chamber, Stan adjusted his unique ceremonial attire, a fusion of Earth's formal military dress and traditional Clorosian robes. His father helped straighten the crystalline metals that complemented his human ones. Your mother and I had our doubts when we first heard, Richard admitted, but seeing you two together, seeing how you've bridged our worlds, we couldn't be prouder, son. The ceremony itself exceeded all expectations. The traditional Clorosian venue had been transformed into a breathtaking blend of both cultures. Crystalline arches wrapped with earth roses created a luminescent canopy. The air was filled with the haunting harmony of human classical music mixed with Clorosian tone poetry. When Stan and Nybara took their positions for the ceremony of physical harmony, the audience fell silent. The dance they'd practiced for weeks had evolved into something transcendent. Each movement told their story, the chance meeting, the growing attraction, the merging of their cultures in the miracle of new life they'd created together. During one particularly intimate lift, Nybara's skin pulsed with intense light, and gasps rippled through the audience as an answering glow emanated from her abdomen, their unborn child joining the dance in its own way. Now that's what I call a performance, Lady Emeralda declared proudly to Amanda, though I suspect that particular light show wasn't part of the choreography. The Earth ambassador leaned forward in his seat, speaking quietly to his aide. Make a note. This union represents more than just a marriage. It's proof that humanity's future lies in embracing new possibilities, new connections. The head elder of the Clorosian Council rose to perform the final blessing, his voice carrying across the gathered crowd. Today we witness not just the union of two beings, but the dawn of a new era. Through this marriage, we see the infinite potential that exists when different peoples come together in love and understanding. As Stan and Nybara sealed their union with a kiss, their combined glow illuminated the entire chamber, drawing tears from humans and Clorosians alike. In that moment, everyone present understood they were witnessing history, Not just the joining of two people, but the beginning of a new chapter in both species' stories. The celebration that followed blended the best of both worlds. Humans and Chlorosians mingled freely, sharing stories and customs. Lady Emeralda held court at the center of it all, already planning the baby shower with Amanda's eager assistance. Later that night, in a quiet moment alone in their new home, Stan held Nibara close as they watched the twin moons rise through their bedroom's crystal walls. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For being the gorgeous granddaughter of a meddling alien grandmother who saw something special in a human helping with her shopping bags." Nibara's answering laugh made her whole body glow, and a smaller answering light pulsed from within her. "We're going to have quite a story to tell our child." "Speaking of stories," Stan grinned, "wait until you hear what your grandmother just told my mother about her plans for the baby's naming ceremony." 6 months after the ceremony, the Thorks Reynolds Haybird home buzzed with anticipation. The living crystal walls pulsed with heightened sensitivity, reflecting the emotions of its occupants, particularly Nibara's increasingly intense bioluminescence as she neared her due date. "The walls are practically strobing," Stan observed, helping Nibara settle onto their specially designed birthing couch. "Should I adjust the sensitivity?" "Don't you dare," Lady Emeralda commanded, sweeping into the room with Dr. Viridian. "The crystal resonance helps during delivery. It's traditional." The birth of the first human Chlorosian child had become an event of galactic significance. Outside, media representatives from both worlds maintained a respectful distance, their hover cameras occasionally visible through the privacy-filtered windows. Amanda Reynolds paced nervously, while Richard attempted to appear stoic, though his constant checking of medical readouts betrayed his concern. The blend of human and Chlorosian medical technology surrounding them represented yet another successful fusion of their cultures. "The baby's bioluminescence is getting stronger," Dr. Viridian announced, studying his instruments, "and its vital signs are perfect. Strong human heart rate combined with Chlorosian neural patterns." Nibara's labor progressed faster than either human or Chlorosian standard, as if their child was eager to make its appearance. Her skin's glow intensified with each contraction, creating patterns that danced across the crystal walls in synchronization with her breathing. Stan never left her side, his presence keeping her grounded as their son made his journey into the world. When the final moment came, the room filled with a brilliant light that emanated from both mother and child. "Well, would you look at that?" Lady Emeralda exclaimed as doctor. Viridian placed the newborn on Nibara's chest. "He has his father's strong features and his mother's glow." The baby boy was a perfect blend of both species. His skin had a subtle green tint that pulsed with gentle bioluminescence, while his hair was his father's rich brown. His eyes, when they opened, were a striking combination of human blue with Chlorosian luminescent flecks. "He's beautiful," Amanda whispered, tears streaming down her face. "You know, what's his name?" Stan and Nibara exchanged a look before Nibara spoke. "We've chosen Pyrean, after the brightest star in the Chlorosian sky. It means light bringer in the ancient tongue." "Pyreon Reynolds Thorks," Lady Emeralda tested the name. "Perfect. Though I still say we could have gone with my suggestion." "Grandmother, we are not naming him Matchmaker's Victory." Nibara laughed, then gasped as baby Pyreon's skin brightened in response to her joy. "Remarkable," Dr. Viridian murmured, scanning the infant. "His bioluminescent response is stronger than any recorded in Chlorosian history. And look at these muscle density readings. Definitely human plus. He's everything we predicted, and more." As the doctor continued his excited commentary about hybrid vigor and genetic optimization, Stan sat on the edge of the birthing couch, one arm around Nibara, while his other hand gently stroked his son's glowing cheek. "You know," he said softly, "when I helped your grandmother with those shopping bags, I never imagined it would lead to this." "Oh, I did," Lady Emeralda declared proudly. "Well, maybe not the glowing grandchild part, but I knew you two would be perfect together. A grandmother knows these things." Richard Reynolds cleared his throat. "I suppose this means Earth's diplomatic corps should start recruiting more helpful young men to assist elderly alien ladies with their shopping." The room filled with laughter, causing little Pyrean to pulse with his own happy light. The crystal walls of their home responded in kind, creating a gentle aurora effect that wrapped the family in a warm glow. As news of the successful birth spread, celebrations erupted in both human and Chlorosian communities. The union that began with a chance encounter had produced more than just the first of a new kind of being. It had created a living bridge between two species, proving that love truly could transcend the barriers of biology and space. Lady Emeralda, watching her granddaughter and great-grandson from the doorway, smiled contentedly. "Now then," she said to Amanda, "shall we start planning the naming ceremony? And I have some wonderful ideas for the traditional matchmaking blessing. After all, it's never too early to think about the next generation." "Grandmother," Nibara protested weakly, but her laughter and her son's answering glow filled the room with joy, promising many more adventures to come for this remarkable family.